There's one thing that'll make your off-road vehicle stand out. You can have big wheels, you can have nice rims, you can have all the lights in the world on it, but this one thing will make it stand out against the rest and make your off-road build look complete. It's an off-road metal bumper. They're heavy, they're made of steel, and they make your ride look like a tank. So when I bought my 4Runner back in 2020, I knew this was the one thing that I would have to do to complete my off-road build and make it look the best it possibly could. In my past couple of videos, I've been showing you the other upgrades I've had to do to this vehicle to get it ready for off-road use in a long trip it's going on. And today, we're going to do the most important part of those, which is this off-road bumper, and make it look from this to this, which is a complete transformation. Now, the kit I'm using is from True North Fabrications, and it's built specifically for 3rd gen 4Runners, but they make kits for all sorts of vehicles, and it's probably pretty similar to put together as the one in this video. This is a DIY weld together kit, so we're going to spend a lot of time welding and grinding in this video. And if you have any questions about what I did or how I got this done, feel free to email me at justcallmeeddie1@gmail.com. I'll answer any questions you have, and feel free to subscribe to this channel so you do not miss any more videos like this one. Now, there is instructions on the internet for this DIY kit, but I got a little eager and I kind of skipped the first step. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it here and show you every single weld that I had to make on this bumper. Now, I've already started here. I did some practice welds, and I'm welding this today with a very big welder. This is a Miller CP302, and we usually use this welder to weld torque converters together, as we are a transmission shop, and that's where we make a good majority of our money. Well, we had an extra gun laying around, and this is a nice little handheld gun that we can use. This is the machine we use to weld torque converters up with. I was using this gun. I wanted to make sure it worked. We got it relined. I just wanted to practice with it a few times last night before I left work. And it looks like it's doing very well. I mean, it's burning in well. It's holding nice and tight. So this is the first couple steps that we got to do. These are mounting plates right here. This is our main bumper frame, and this is what mounts it to the frame rails. It bolts into these right here. So we kind of got it sitting upside down right now. But I did that to weld these in. And now the next step, technically the first step is to weld these support brackets in right here. And we also got these little bitty tabs that we got to weld in right here. Will that burn through a little bit? There, I'm proud of myself there. That's how the day's gonna go. We're gonna be looking pretty good. That's not a bad weld. And lasers in here. What are you talking about, though? What are you talking about? Now, it doesn't matter so much on the inside of the bumper, but on the outside facing part, you have to make sure all your gaps are filled and grinded back down where they're nice and smooth, where it doesn't look like a 2-year-old welded it together. It takes a lot of time and a lot of patience, so be prepared to fill gaps with a lot of weld and then grind it back down until it's perfect. All right, so the next steps in our process after we get those welds grinded down and all this taken care of, which I do got taken care of, I'll show you that here in just a second, but they want you to do these side plates right here, the main vertical plates and the front face and skid. They want you to weld those in next, and it seems like they want you to flushly align the top, then offset this by 1/8 of an inch, which seems very difficult to do without clamps and stuff. But if you look over here, I got this thing propped up here. You see my dilemma here is, how do we put this in with an 1/8 of an inch flush alignment? So these are our vertical main brackets right here. They lug in right here. We're gonna see if we can get that to sit flush down there. And the problem that I was seeing we're gonna run into is I want you to have an 1/8 of an inch gap right here and have this flush up here. But if you do that, you're not gonna be able to get your tow hooks in properly. What I've done is I've went ahead and tried to build this thing with the tow hooks in it. So we got it all the way over. We're gonna try to get these brackets, these main vertical brackets, supports as straight as possible with this, and we're just gonna tack weld it where it's at. And I think that's the best way to do this. You know, it's not gonna be perfect. It's a DIY kit. These plates are cut separately, so they just kind of package them together and send it to you at True North. So you gotta be diligent and make sure it's gonna line up properly. All right, so now that we got it all tacked, we're gonna tack these back right here. That's what needs to be welded in. We got a little gappy right there. That's a little gappy, but it's held in. The plates hold nicely. I think it's gonna work out. All right, so I want you to get these down here. And like I said, it's not exactly true. So what I'm doing is I'm using a C-clamp here, and I'm getting it where I can just kind of press it down with my thumb and tack it right along here. And they want us to weld these tabs to this main support frame on this thing. Now this was one of the harder things to do on this DIY kit, and that's because the metal was so thin on the front cover and it kept burning through. So I had to be very easy and take my time and just fill the gaps in as I could, and then go back over with a grinder to make sure everything looked good. And when I got done with it on the first pass, it didn't look that great. This also took multiple days to get perfect where I was satisfied with it. So this is what we're looking like so far. These are not the easiest to weld. As you can see, I've grinded down. It doesn't look the best. We're going to continue grinding, continue welding. It's a little bit of a process. They won't be seen that much, but still, you know. All right, we're back here, and we are going to be welding on these support brackets right here. Right now, this goes on this side. It'll go in just like that. I've got a clamp holding this one on, and we're going to tack weld it along here and along here. We're going to give it a nice strong bead. We're going to tack weld it in 2 spots, and then we're going to bead it all the way and all the way right there. Make sure it looks nice and good. All right, we got these things welded in and grinded. They look pretty good to me. I mean, you know, I know my welds aren't perfect, but you know, there's a saying that goes, you're either a good welder or you're a great grinder. And I'm a great grinder, I'm not a good welder. So that's just definitely not a great welder. All right, we're here. We got the off-road bumper halfway together. So we're gonna go ahead and take the old bumper off. and start getting it ready to mount. And I believe you got to take these 2 bolts off and these 2 bolts off, and that's what's going to mount right there, right here, and right here. Sayonara to it, because this is the last time this car is going to look like this. Say goodbye to this bumper, and say hello to the TRD wheels with the True North off-road bumper. Now we're gonna mount this thing, and this is my, you know, I'm not looking forward to this part. I gotta cut my 1997 4Runner up here. So the problem is these mounts are gonna mount here to these bolts, okay? And this frame rail comes out too far, about 3 inches too far, I'd say. So we're going to cut it probably just past that circle right there on both sides. And, you know, we're going to sing a sad song while we do it. Get my Harbor Freight cutting wheel here, my Harbor Freight face protection here. And let's cut it up. So now that we got the 4Runner ready for the bumper to mount to it, here's the game plan. We're going to mount the middle section that I've already built to the car like it's going to be when I mount the whole bumper on. And we're going to take the wings and we're going to hold them in place where we want them to be, and we're going to tack weld them into place. Once we do that, we're going to pull the bumper back off and fill all the gaps. So you're going to see this process in real time, and it's going to make a whole lot of sense once you see it why I did it like this. As you can see, by doing it this way, I got everything to line up exactly where I wanted it before I welded it in solidly on the table. I felt like holding all those wings on the table and getting them exactly at the right angle was going to be very difficult. So having it on the car and being able to hold it exactly where I wanted it in place, where it lined up perfectly where the car body is shaped, I was able to make sure that I did not mess anything up that was kind of irreversible. Now we're filling the gaps that are on the front cover, and this is basically the same procedure I've been doing the whole time when building this thing. Fill all the gaps in, make sure the weld is nice and beat it up, and then grind it back down smooth. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of patience, and honestly it took me days to make sure that this bumper was exactly the way I wanted it to be and would not show the rough welds that I was laying on this thing all weekend. Now the last couple things I had to weld on was the front tow hooks and the pipes on the side of it. These aren't completely necessary, but they kind of add to the look of the bumper, and they make it feel more off-roadish and a little more rugged. Now I took my time with these welds because they were going to be seen, and there was not really a way to grind them back down to hide if I messed any of them up. So basically, I'm going to be tacking these things in one little tack at a time to make sure that the weld is beaded up nice and that it doesn't look like a dang gummy mess when I'm done with it. So after many days of grinding and filling in gaps and grinding some more, and then filling in gaps and grinding some more, we finally got everything welded on, and the front tow hooks did not look that bad with the welds that were on the front. They weren't perfect, but I was happy enough with them. We also got the end caps welded on and everything else welded on underneath, underneath with the pipe, and it turned out pretty decent using the tack weld method. Didn't look too bad, and I was happy with it. Now, the last thing I had to do before I sent this thing off to be painted was made sure I could mount my license plate to the front. I live in the state of Virginia, and in the state of Virginia, you gotta have a license plate on the front of your vehicle. So I drilled some holes in this bumper that I had just welded together, where I could weld some nuts on the back side where I could screw my license plate and be legal in the state of Virginia. All right, here it is. We're gonna leave it here to be powder coated. So the next time you see this bumper, it's gonna be ready to install. That's the plan. All right, so surprise, surprise, surprise. We got this thing powder coated. It looks spectacular. Don't worry about all this. I'm gonna tell you about that in a second. But let's just admire the beauty of this thing. Give me I've had my paws on this thing this morning, and you can kind of tell, so let's just, you know, look at this thing. Looks beautiful. And he did a spectacular job on this thing. Now, so I went and got a winch yesterday at Harbor Freight. They had this thing on sale, so 9,500, and it's a little smaller than the 12,000 pound. And that's because, you know, I wanted to make sure it fit in here, and it fits nicely. It fits almost perfect. We already, as you see, I got it elevated. We already butted it up against to make it fit. Now we're making sure that we can get the electrical ran, and we're going to try to stuff this box right in here. And when we do that, we're going to try to get the controller to come out basically where that N and D is at. Oh, sorry. We drilled it out. This is what it looks like in there. Think about like right there is where we're gonna have it. And we got rough country lights here. I bought these basically off of Facebook Marketplace, kinda. He had them on Facebook Marketplace, but I knew the guy. Got them for really cheap, 50 bucks. Can't beat it. They're rough country. Already got the switch wired in. There's the power for the lights. There's the ground for the lights. There's the fuse for the lights, and it goes down into the firewall down there and goes to this switch right there. Rough country right there. So that's all working. Now we still got to wire in the battery cutoff switch for the winch, but we're going to worry about that later. All right, so we got the winch all hooked up. We made sure it worked with the jump box. We got to hook up a few more things here. We just got to hook up a ground here. Probably going to hook it up somewhere over here on the transpooler. And I got to hook up those wires, but we're about ready to go ahead and put the bumper on, so that's what we're going to do now. So here it is, the final step of our transformation of this 3rd gen 4Runner. It's been 4 years coming, lots of money spent, lots of money saved just for these parts, and lots of time spent to put everything together. And now I'm finally happy with the way this thing looks. I couldn't have dreamed it up better, and I did dream it up. This is exactly how I pictured this vehicle looking when I was done with all the projects that I wanted to do with it. And I'm finally here. Now, the last couple things that I had to do was get some signal lights, and I got these from SRQ Fabrications as well. They design these things that fit right underneath your existing headlights. You have to wire them in and put a relay in to get them to work. But once you do, they work brilliantly, and they look pretty decent as well too. So now that I finally got this 4Runner performing and looking exactly how I wanted it to, it's time to put this thing to the true test. And we're going to drive this thing to the road ends, and I mean that literally and figuratively. We're going to drive this thing so far that the road's going to end, and then we're going to keep going, and I'm going to tell you all about that in my next video. So be sure to subscribe to this channel so you do not miss that video or any other of my project videos that I will be filming here in the next couple months. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook, where I post weekly content about the day-to-day things that I do, and sometimes give away free stuff on my stories. You can also email me at justcallmeeddie1@gmail.com for any automotive questions that you may have, and I'll do the best I can to answer them for you. I'm also on Patreon now, where you can follow me for less than a gallon of gas per month. Thanks for watching, and whatever you do, however you do it, make sure you work hard, make sure you play hard, and most importantly, make sure you stay dirty. You can just call me Eddie.